outsider, if you didn't, you wouldn't have any sense of connection to that archetype that you're watching on the screen. Does that make sense? Because you have it vibrating within you. So I was realizing, watching all of these female energies and powers on TV and reading about them, it was something that was vibrating within me. When I was three or 4 years old, my mother told me this story, but I do have a memory of it. My father was still living at the house, and he was watching his evening news. Now, mind you, I grew up in a very Republican family, okay? My father loved watching All in the Family, but the minute Maude showed up, he turned the channel. Makes no sense, but there was no feminist education in my household. One night, Gloria Steinem came on the news and was lecturing and talking, and she was really going at it. My mom said that I stopped everything I was doing in the living room. I was playing with some toys. I stopped everything, and I walked over to the television set, and I grabbed onto it and just stared into it. And she said if she would have had the camera, she would have taken a picture. I would have liked to have seen that. But I just held onto the television and stared into it while Gloria Steinem was talking. And I'm seeing a series of these things in my life, and I'm realizing what it really is that in the shift that's happening at this moment, there's an abundant energy of divine feminine power being downloaded in all of our systems. Because we're now understanding that we must get back to earth consciousness. We must get our nutrients, get our power, get everything from the earth once again. That's Mother Earth. We've got to get back to nurturing ourselves. We've got to get back to nurturing everything that has to do with a mother or with that divine feminine intuition. Everything that we're striving to achieve about ourselves is striving to energize that feminine part of us. Because I've always said, if you want something done, you need to call on the Mother God to get it done. You know, there's these bumper stickers I see. It says, God's coming and she's pissed. And it's interesting. A few weeks ago, I went through a personal issue in my life, and when I feel depressed, I go for a walk. And so I'm walking around my neighborhood, and I'm listening to an inspirational song, and I look at a bumper sticker, and it said, give everything to God. And I'm like, okay, yeah, she'll take care of it. Okay? And growing up with this kind of consciousness, this kind of ability, blessingly, to be able to tap into, I had to find something out here to help nurture my intuitive ability. And we all know what that's like. We have experiences. We have psychic experiences. And when we have no one to go to talk about that, it's not fun. You need something out here, some director, someone to help you kind of see things clearly until you can see things for yourself clearly. Okay? Because it all matters to you, and it's all about you, and you're the only one that can decipher. Our job is just to be directors and to be guides, but we are not the sole voice of the divine. The sole voice of the divine only resonates within you and to only you. And let me tell you something else that's quite interesting. The voice of God or the fingerprint of God or the messages from God vibrate only to you. God doesn't vibrate the same for somebody else. This is why in church we learned about our personal relationship with God. My perception of that was God's vibration to you is personal and only to you. It's like a fingerprint. It's not going to be the same as someone else's. This is why we all have our own truth. This is why we can listen to a speaker and go, oh yeah, I like that. But the person sitting next to you goes, no, that doesn't ring with me. Because that vibration of God is not the same for them. They're going to find it somewhere else. But creation, the Mother, Father, God, the oneness is constantly pushing itself up, upwelling itself within your consciousness trying to connect with you, trying to help you vibrate to its energy. That's why you're here. This is why you read spiritual books. This is why you go to spiritual teachers. You're trying to vibrate to God. You're trying to find your own vibration to the source. Trust me, it's not about learning new psychic tricks. It's not about learning to talk to this entity or that entity. What it is learning to talk to the ultimate entity which is within you. Everything else is window dressing. Everything else is a catalyst to get you to come within yourself. Everything else should be used as a tool for you to go within yourself and face that divine source head on. Yeah, this is what I was thinking about at age 15. Don't ask me how I did it. But it wasn't a fun time. I was going through puberty, I was going through my sexuality, I was going through my spirituality all at once. And living in a little town in the Ozarks. And of course, you go to someone and say, I'm really questioning life after death. Because the answer would be, well, do you have Jesus in your life? Yes, but it's not the same thing. So, luckily we have family members that will sneak us books. And my sister-in-law, bless her heart. Are you bored? No. Okay. So I'm getting to the divine feminine, I promise. So my sister-in-law, I lived in Mountain View and she lived in Little Rock. And my father had moved out by then and I was 15, 16 years old. And I said, listen, Angela, I know that you read some New Age books. She goes, yeah. I said, can I borrow some of those? She goes, shit. She goes, yes, but you can't tell your brother. So the next trip that they made, she handed me Out on a Limb by Shirley MacLaine and Going With, which was another Shirley MacLaine title. I read them within an hour. I went into my room and I couldn't stop. And I went back and forth on each of them. Changed my life. Because it gave me, I prayed, I said, please God, if this is your truth for me, if these questions that I'm having, if this is something that you want me to pursue, I gotta have some direction. Please don't be afraid to ask for direction. Don't be afraid to ask for direction, but what you have to remember is you cannot put your own perception on what that direction's gonna be. You've gotta release it. You'll get your answer, but it may not be in the form you want it, okay? I always wanted Della Reese to show up from Touched by an Angel and say, listen, angel boy, this is what's going on, right? Which years later, which is funny, years later, I ended up meeting her at her church in LA. That was amazing. But, see, it comes in different forms. So that's what I did. I asked, and my sister brought me these books, and I began realizing other people were having the same questions, the same need for spiritual direction. Then I decided this was what I was going to do. I was going to pursue my own spiritual search. Now, Mountain View Public School, okay? I'd go to school, and I would do this on purpose. See, there's not much to do in a little town. You've got to entertain yourself. So I would take my Shirley MacLaine books. Now, they were hardback books, right? So I would sit there and read in study hall, what we called study hall when it was a break in between classes, like this. And there was Shirley MacLaine Out on a Limb, and I'm sitting there reading this, and I had a teacher come up and she said, are you reading that? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, now you're reading that because you want to learn what not to do, right? And what to watch out for. And I said, no. I said, I want to learn how to get out of my body in 5 minutes.